With Wealth for Life, there is a little bit of personal care.
We didn't go through the investing, and I don't think we'd be where we are today.
I would never go to a bank directly again.
Let's do it together.
They're giving me more confidence.
We feel totally secure now.
It was just easy.
There's a capability there that we didn't even know we had.
Stressful wise, Anthony's always there.
After the first meeting, those fears were gone.
They make us comfortable before we made the next step to invest.
Who wants to work until they're 80? Seriously.
We actually have seen the benefits.
It's like nothing's changed, but we're getting wealthier every day.
They've laid out the plan out for the next 20 years and
looks great.
And I know exactly where I'm going.
They really are the real deal.
We feel included.
I'm able to retire at a very younger age.
We're in the process of building our dream home after 18 years being stuck in the one home.
Financial independence for us and for our children.
Build something for our son, Rocco.
And set up our kids' futures as well.
Set themselves up for life.
They were amazing.
So certainly will make a big difference to you.
They changed our lives.
We feel included.
Go to Wealth for Life. Full stop.
Hi guys, Anthony Peluso here, founder and CEO of Wealth for Life, coming at you this Wednesday, the 26th of August, 2020. What a year. And obviously due to certain restrictions and lockdowns in the state of Victoria, we've had to shoot this webinar, this presentation a little earlier in the day. So thank you so much for all the feedback you have given us over the last few weeks. We sent out a survey and wanted to understand you, the investor, what you wanted to know with regards to real estate investing. So what came back was specific market information about high growth properties and their location. So what drives the property market? How does one property perform better than another? So we've taken that information and we're going to cover that off today. So sit back, get your notepad out and your pen, and let's get started. All right, so when it comes to real estate investing, there's two ways that you can do it, okay? You can do it the way that most people do it, and then you can do it the way that successful wealth creators and investors do it, okay? It comes down to that rule of 80-20, right? Or in the case of real estate or money making, you know, there's that 6% of the population that do well financially, and sadly the other 94% end up struggling, okay? So a rule that I've always applied in my life is I study successful people, I monitor their behavior, I study their actions, I study what they do, who they hang out with, how they spend their time, the conversations they have, the subjects they talk about. So if you're going to invest, it's probably no different, okay? Learn to invest how the successful people invest, not the way that most Australians invest, okay? Because there is a difference. All right, so when looking at real estate, there are 4 factors. That's right, only 4 factors that drive the market, okay? So I'm going to talk about these at a high level, and then we're going to drill down, all right? So stay with me. Number 1, okay, at a macro level, employment, okay? So if you have a look at, people ask me, Anthony, why don't you go outside of Victoria and New South Wales? Well, there's a reason for that, okay? I look at where the greatest density of employment opportunities are, and that's where my money's going to go, okay? Because employment, jobs, drive population. I mean, if you look at people, they will change their entire lifestyle, their entire, their life will get turned upside down based on work. Because let's face it, guys, you better love what you do because you're spending a third of your waking day working, okay? So people will uproot themselves, their families, their lifestyle to go where the work is. So make sure at a macro level that you've got plenty of employment opportunities. That's why I only stick to Victoria and New South Wales. Now, a lot of people don't agree with that, okay? That's fine. These are my rules. They've worked for me and they've worked for our clients, okay? Where the greatest density of employment opportunities are is where I go. So look at the biggest top 200, look at the top 200 organizations in Australia, right? The blue chip entities, right? Your Telstras, your Rio Tintos, all those big conglomerates, right? Their head offices are all in Melbourne and Sydney, Okay, most employment opportunities sit in those areas. Okay, because you know that this is where people are going to go. So what happens? You've got work. People show up because they want the work. They need the work. So when people show up, they're going to need a place to live. All right. So at a macro level, you've got employment and population. Then when you get to a more micro level, people always want to live where there's really good infrastructure, especially with regards to proximity to work. Again, let's face it, guys, 8 hours a day or more is spent going to work, okay? So you want to make sure that you can actually get there in the shortest possible time, with the greatest amount of conveniency available. Now, a lot of that will be dictated based on price, okay? So where you live, where you own your home or where you rent, will be based on, obviously, price. That's the first indicator, okay? That's the first thing that determines your next move. So make sure that you've got really good infrastructure when it comes to investing in real estate, okay? It's difficult to attract tenants. It's difficult to cause that supply and demand in an area where there's not a lot of good infrastructure. And by infrastructure, I mean, I'll cover it off later. I'm talking about train stations. I'm talking about shopping towns, retail, conveniency, okay? The X factor. This is what people will pay a premium for. And it's the thing that most people overlook when it comes to investing in real estate. You've got to understand people will pay for conveniency, okay? If you can get your head around that criteria, you'll do very, very, very well. Make it easy, make it simple for people to accommodate your real estate, and they will pay a premium, they'll fight for it, you'll create competition, you'll create demand, because everyone's looking for conveniency. Everyone's looking for something in the shortest possible time, okay, available. And number 4, out of the 4 factors, so we've talked about employment, we've talked about population, infrastructure, and the 4th factor, the one that's discarded by most people, is planned infrastructure, okay? It's interesting because as human beings, we're trained to only look at what we can see, right? What's observable, what we can see is usually what's real for us and what's true. Now, I get that, and there's nothing wrong with that viewpoint. But the biggest amount of money, like the guys that make the most amount of money, study any business, right? Study any business, right, that's been successful, be it your Amazon. I mean, look at a guy like Jeff Bezos, right? He saw an idea that at some point, right, was going to fill a huge void in the market. People want conveniency, so what does he do? He sets up Amazon. People can pick and buy and choose and purchase whatever they want right now from the comfort of their own home. No getting into your car, no driving, no finding a car park, dealing with people and stress and having to get home. You can be doing a number of different things at home and still make your purchase online. Now, he was able to see that before anybody else. And take a look at the size of Amazon right now. So you get my point, right? You need to be able to see what other people can't see. That's where the money is, okay? If everybody can see it, there's a very good chance there's not a lot of money to be made in it. Does that make sense? So, planned infrastructure, the X factor, okay? And this is where you're going to get your greatest growth when it comes to real estate, okay? But timing is everything when it comes to this. So, let me give you some examples of infrastructure and the future growth effect of, say, specific locations, okay? So you're looking for big ticket items such as business centres, town centres, business parks, train stations that are about to go in, big shopping centres. Retail is obviously very, very important. I mean, think of, look at Melbourne. For those of you guys that are from Melbourne, Victoria, right? You got Chadstone Shopping Centre, right? What is it, the biggest shopping town in the Southern Hemisphere? What else does that area have, that suburb have, other than the shopping centre, right? It's renowned, it's known for the shopping centre, right? Hospitals, education. I mean, if you look at some of the suburbs here, again, I'll talk about Melbourne, Victoria. Look at areas like Mount Waverley and Glen Waverley as an example. Those suburbs over the last 10 years, right, 5-10 years, have skyrocketed on the back of education and what's perceived to be good schooling facilities, very successful schools, right? So people will move into an area because one thing that's very, very important for parents is education and good quality education for their kids. So it's important to understand where there's good schools, okay? Because that's a very important part of the infrastructure that we're talking about, right? So make sure that when you're looking to invest, you take these factors into account, okay? Because the mistake that a lot of people buy, they just go buy property wherever their friend next door or their best buddy or their cousin or the guy they had coffee with last week says to buy. It's ridiculous. When we talk to people about their buying criteria and why they chose a particular area, some of the comments we get are insane. Absolutely insane. Because I want to drive past the property every day. Why? Somebody going to steal it? You really need to understand the difference between buying your own home, which is an emotional purchase, and making money. It has nothing to do with emotion. In fact, the more emotion there is to making money, the more you're going to lose money. Never connect emotion and money, okay? Because when emotion is high, intelligence is always, always low. You want to flip that, right? Handle the emotion with your personal purchase, your own home, and keep emotion out of making money, okay? Because you want the intelligence, you want the logic here to be the key driver. So make decisions based on what's going to make you money. You're an investor. Profit is the only thing you should care about. Don't get mixed signals. Don't go having any aberrated buying criteria. Okay? There is a science to this. There is a way to do this the right way and successfully, as opposed to the wrong way and kind of hope based on incorrect buying criteria. So make sure you've got really good infrastructure and you understand planned infrastructure. Now, what do I mean by that? And how do you get ahead of the curve? All right? So these are some of the things you would need to understand so that you can make an informed buying decision with regards to real estate that outperforms the rest of the market. Number one, are people moving into the area or moving out? Now, wouldn't you think that that's important to understand? If people are moving in, right, very good chance your property's going to do well. If people are moving out, right? That's an indicator. You need to know that. Owner-occupier versus investors. The last thing you want to do is buy into an area full of investors, okay? Why? Investors tend to get themselves into trouble more than owner-occupiers. They tend to trade their property based on economic times. Owner-occupiers are more stable. Generally speaking, people hold on to their principal place of residence for roughly 7 years. The properties always look better, and if you invest in an area predominantly where there's owner-occupier property, your property will perform much better than areas where it's just full of investors, right? Because how do valuers do valuations, right? There's three ways that they actually value a property, actually 4 ways, but the most common way is comparable sales. So if there's properties that are being traded and sold up and down every month, it's basically, it's the pick of the moment. Your property will be valued based on what happened in the last 3 months. So you want to minimize the number of transactions in the area that you invest in, okay? So that's another point. Have a look at the number of property transactions in a particular area, okay? Disposable incomes, right? Like, investing should be done with the viewpoint of a bad economy, right? One of the ways to test an area is have a look at how that area performed when the economy was bad, right? Disposable incomes will tell you everything, because if you're after a particular price or a particular rent to make this all, viable and feasible for you, you need to understand people's disposable incomes, right? Most people won't spend more than 30 to 33% of their disposable income towards rent or a mortgage. This is very important data to understand, because if you get this wrong, you'll be left with tenants that can't afford your property and with people that can't afford to purchase it, okay? Employment industry, right? Again, not to pick on anyone's type of employment or industry but you want an industry that is solid. You want an industry that's essential. You want an industry that, again, is robust when the economy moves up and down. And you're basically looking for people to rent your property that are not that are not in an industry that can get knocked out pretty quickly if interest rates move or the economy contracts. All right, so look for very essential industries. Percentage of salaries towards mortgage, I spoke about that. Have a look at the capital growth potential of the area prior and moving forward. Okay, rental yields. Okay, this is data that you can get. Auction clearance rates, it'll tell you a lot about the amount of people in the area that want to buy in there. Okay, and if property's sitting on the market for too long in that particular area, it's probably an indicator that you need to look at. Dwelling type. Is the area more full of houses, apartments, townhouses, villas, duplexes? This is information you need to have because it will determine what you probably should be looking at, right? Vacancy rates, again, when it comes to rents, how many properties are vacant? Now, be careful here, right? Because a lot of people will just jump onto realestate.com or domain.com and they'll see all these properties for rent and they'll think, wow, there's too many properties for rent. I'm not going to buy in that area. That's an incorrect understanding of data. Okay, you're not looking at the data correctly there. A lot of real estate agents buy real estate space on these websites, right? Advertising space for a fixed period of time, say 4 weeks, 6 weeks, right? If they rent the property out after the first week, they still leave their ad up for the next 4 to 5 weeks, okay? The property's rented, right? But you, the investor, you're doing your research and you come to the conclusion that it's still available. No, it's not. The only way you're going to really know if the property is available, pick up the phone, talk to the agent. Hey, is that property rented out? Yes, it has. Hey, is that property rented out? This will give you an understanding of the vacancy rates in the area, okay? Number of properties sold is also another indicator, okay? Vendor discounts. So are you buying in an area where vendors are having to heavily discount the properties in that area, okay? That'll give you an indication of what your buying price is. And you also want to understand the median price of real estate in that area, right? That middle point, right? Median price means the equal amount of properties are sold below that price as the equal amount of properties that are sold above that price, okay? Supply and demand, we've spoken about that. You want to get into an area where there's good demand or there's going to be good demand if you can get ahead of the curve. How long is property taking to sell, like days on the market, okay? Also another indicator. Track record and history, you know. Never ever come to a conclusion or make a decision when the economy is good. You need to test. You need to test every property that you're purchasing based on a bad economy. When you work with my team here at Wealth for Life, and the numbers that we do for you aren't based on when the economy is great and interest rates are at their lowest. Anybody can make money during that time, right? Look at banks. Banks are smart. If you haven't figured that out, right, they're actually quite smart. When you go and apply for a loan, right, the assessment criteria they use, they take the interest rate. I think right now it's probably around 5%, right? You can get interest rates in the market around that 2.5%, but banks will still assess you at 5%. Why? They want to know that if interest rates get jacked up again to 5%, that you can afford to hold on to the property. So when you're doing your feasibility and you're doing your numbers, don't use what interest rate they can give you today. Like put 2-3% on top and see how that affects the numbers and if it's still an attractive purchase, okay? Discount the rent, discount your income, okay? Maybe discount the growth rate. You want to try and kill the deal, right? And you want to base your purchase on a worst case scenario, okay? Because anybody can make the figures look good. And whilst the market is doing great, no problem. But when it turns, and remember, property goes through a property cycle, right? Every seven or so years, 5 to 7 years, by the way. There's always a cycle. You know, you get the market doing well, then it starts to taper off, then it drops, then it starts to pick up again, okay? I talk about these on other presentations I've done, right? Or go to our website. You can get a lot of information on that. So make sure that you take that information into account when it comes to making your purchase, right? Market depth, right? So you want to know the amount of people wanting to buy a particular property or type of property. Because again, if you're the only person that wants to buy that property, is it a valuable property? Right? Competition is a very, very, very good indicator. Okay? Wouldn't you love to be the person that's holding on to real estate that everybody wants to buy? And here's a trick I actually use, right? Actually, I don't know if I've shared this with anyone before, right? So, exclusive here, guys. When I buy real estate, I don't look at real estate as me purchasing it today. I look at how valuable this real estate is going to look like in 5, 10, 15, 20 years' time. So I'm able to visualize and look at, will this real estate be in demand in 20 years' time? When I put this on the market, if I put it on the market as part of an exit strategy, how many people will want to buy this real estate? Will it be in demand? What's going to be next door to it? What's going to be in front of it? What's going to be surrounding my real estate? I better not be the only person that wants to buy it when I put it on the market in 10, 15 years' time. I want competition for my real estate. I want as many people as possible fighting for my real estate. Now, if I can see that when I purchase that, that's a damn good purchase. If I know that when I go exit in the future, people are going to be fighting for my real estate because of all the criteria I've covered, that is a damn good purchase, and probably one of the key criteria you should look at. Right? So don't look at it the fact that you're purchasing it today. Look at it when you go sell it. Will it be in demand? Put yourself as the purchaser, the future purchaser later on. Will you want to buy your own property in 20 years' time? Okay? Because it does actually help take the emotion out when you're making your purchase up front. All right, so our predictions and favorite areas right now and why. Okay, areas that have those 4 factors, okay? I've used this rule for the last 15 years. It's never, ever let me down, okay? Areas that have allocated government spending or private equity. You know, I followed a particular pattern when it comes to investing in real estate, okay? Trends and patterns are very, very important, okay? You want to be able to see that invisible money, right? You want to be ahead of the curve. You want to see what other people can't see. Now, that's difficult because sometimes you're buying in areas that are not popular. But if you understand how the economy works, if you understand how jobs work, if you understand, I mean, guys, this information is available to everybody, okay? So look at when the budget comes out every year, right? At a federal and more so at a state level, obviously. Have a look at where the money's going, okay? Then drill down to where the money's going, the spending, and what projects the government is spending in, right? So if they're putting in a new train station or a $1 billion hospital, don't you think it's important to understand where that $1 billion hospital is going to go? Now, you've got to be careful here, right? Because one government may promote it and may want to do it, but then when the government goes out of favour or, you know, Labor or Liberal get elected, they may cancel the plans that the other government had in place, okay? I've seen that happen many, many times, right? Huge projects that I think, you know, one government was going to be spending on, they get ousted come election time and the other government scraps the plans, okay? So you want to understand how, like, is the money committed to? Is it going to be spent? Better still, you want to make sure that it is being spent right now. Private equity is another thing as well, right? So have a look at developers, right? They actually fund a lot of these major infrastructure projects themselves, okay? If you understand the background of the developer, the viability of the developer, their track record, it's another thing that you probably should be looking at, all right? Have a look at council planning as well. Obviously, you know, the planning will follow the money. Look at areas that are looking to get rezoned, right? Where the government is going to put its money. It's always said, guys, follow the money. Follow the money, all right? And this is exactly what developers look for because they can't afford to buy at retail. They've got to buy at wholesale, okay? They've got to buy in areas that nobody else can see, buy at a good price, rezone it, let the infrastructure go in, the government comes in. Most of these projects are, you know, are joint ventures with the government anyway, and you guys get to take the ride moving forward. So in summary, know how to interpret the data and the information that you're looking for when it comes to doing your research, okay? Don't just look at it. You want to look for trends and you want to look for patterns, not data in isolation, okay? Have a look at the last 15 years, have a look at the next 15 years, have a look at surrounding areas. Look at, you know, again, the criteria that I've covered off on. Is the government putting money into a particular area? That's always a very big clue. You know, I did a project in the northern suburbs of Melbourne. Quick story here. And this is back in, I think, 2012. I found out that the government was going to be putting in a major Westfield shopping centre, in a particular location, right? Now, this wasn't public knowledge, right? Or not yet. By the time the public found out about it, it was actually 3 years later. So I went into this area on the quiet, okay, and I snapped up as much real estate as I could, and I brought a lot of clients in there with me. Now, a lot of them, you know, were working with us for the first time, and, you know, it's like, Anthony, there's nothing here. 4 years later, massive Westfield shopping town goes up. Property prices in that particular area doubled in like 5.5, 6 years. Okay? So it's really important to understand where the government is spending their money and you know, planned infrastructure. Okay? That will give you the X factor. That will give you that spike, right? But it's not just about that. You need to make sure that then that growth is going to be maintained. Don't go buying in areas like mining towns like Perth, right? People got that all wrong. Okay, that was purely based on greed. All right. So if you have a look at Perth as an example, and I love Perth, by the way. My wife's from Perth, one of the most beautiful cities in the world. Would I put my money there as an investor? No freaking way. Okay, for the reasons I've actually given you, right? So you need to be able to look at the past. You need to be able to look at the future, okay? Very, very important. Don't be paralyzed with an overload of information as well, okay? Get the criteria, go through it, and make a decision, okay? Last thing you want to be doing is sitting there doing more and more research. Time will pass you by. You'll miss the opportunities anyway. Get your criteria, tick it off, and be very, very strict with your criteria. It either fits or it does not. Don't sit in a land of maybe, okay? Have your buying criteria in place. So follow these factors when it comes to buying real estate, okay? Follow these factors we've covered, and your real estate will outperform the rest of the market, okay? So that's the most important thing, okay? I don't want you guys, when you're going out there buying real estate, thinking that any type of real estate will do, especially if it's on information you got from a friend over breakfast or something like that, right? Or because you're part of a community, and if one guy does it, the other guy needs to do it. And especially if you want to buy real estate close to where you live so you can drive past it all the time, okay? You need to separate emotion from intelligence. It's usually the biggest destroyer of wealth is always emotion. Okay, for all those divorced couples out there, okay? So, sorry about that if any of you out there are separated, but you do know what I mean, right? You want to make sure that your intelligence is not affected by any emotion going around. So, guys, thank you so much for tuning in. Again, I love presenting this information to you. I hope you got a lot out of this, and it helps you when you go out there and make your buying decisions. Hit me up again with any feedback regarding these presentations. The only knowledge I want to share with you is the information that you want to hear. Okay? If it doesn't mean anything to you, then there's no point in sharing it, all right? So I really appreciate the feedback. Thank you so much for all of you. And there was a lot of you that took the time to come back to us and tell us what you wanted to hear. Give us a call at wealthforlife.com.au. Just jump on the website, okay, get our number, give us a call, email us. We would love to sit down with you. Incredible buying opportunities in today's market. That's right, 2020. If you know where to look. If you're getting my emails, you're getting our emails, you know the opportunities we're talking about. I know they're trying to wind me up here, but there's so much good stuff out there, and I want you to be a part of it. Thanks, guys. We will see you next week.